All right, welcome to Hashtag General, show about things.
Random things.
Random things. I think that covers it. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time. Yeah.
I mean, that pretty much covers it. You really don't need to watch this show.
Yeah, you honestly just turn away now.
While you still can.
While you still can. Save some time, save some effort. Don't get invested. Because
we will break your hearts eventually.
Yeah. Heartthrobs. Two of us.
But you'll have a good time doing it.
We promise at least a mediocre time. Maybe not a good time. Overall, good time.
Depends how much you pay.
Yeah.
That got dark quickly.
That got dark really quickly. All right, you want to just dive in?
Yeah, so what's going on, Logan? What do you got today?
What do we got today? Let's just start with the Pottermore news. Do you follow any of the Harry Potter stuff that come out recently?
So Jenny, my wife Jenny, is a very huge Potterhead.
So I'm guessing this news you heard about this news. So basically, as part of, I think, National Trivia Day, They announced that prior to the invention of indoor plumbing by Muggles, there were no bathroom facilities at Hogwarts. People would just go to the bathroom. And that made me think about something I never thought I'd have to think about, which is proper bathroom etiquette at Hogwarts prior to there being like a bathroom. Like, what do you do? Did you like raise your hand to go, Professor McGonagall, I need to go to the bathroom? And she'd be like, oh, okay. And you go like, what, stand in the corner and just relieve yourself? Because I don't know about you, I would like some form of privacy, like a room where I could just privately take care of my business.
I mean, so what came to mind? Because like I think in the trivia as well, they say that they would like magically evaporate or like whatever, get rid of it, right? So my question then becomes: have you ever seen that episode of Family Guy where Stewie travels to different dimensions? It's a really old episode.
Yeah, I think I've seen that one.
There's like one where he goes to the future where like the dark ages of Christianity never happened. So like they never burned the Library of Alexandria, and like there were never that suppression of technology and knowledge. So technology is like thousands of years more advanced.
Yeah.
So in that episode, Brian goes, I have to poop. And then Stewie yells into the air, one poop removal, and like it technologically like is taken away like without him having to do anything, right? So like in my head, that's what I'm imagining, right? Like they didn't actually go; they were just like magically like
out of the system.
Yeah,
but it's just like everyone was talking about, like were people just like being like, hold on a second, while in the middle of the hallway and just like going like,
well, again,
what the hell?
Magically speaking, I'm imagining in a way of like they don't go, it's just like taken care of out of their body.
Yeah.
And then at that point, couldn't you put a spell on the school where that would automatically be taken care
happen?
Of? Yeah. And the thing is too, is if that's the case, and like if mine probably doesn't make the most sense, because if mine's the case, then why do you need bathrooms at all once you have them?
And I even saw someone going even deeper, and they were like, well, what about the kids who you can't use magic until you're 11? Does that mean like your mom or dad has to basically follow you around?
They wouldn't be at school anyway, right?
So
they I think how old was Harry when he went to the Hogwarts?
11.
Yeah, so he's fine.
Well, Harry was like, the Muggles will have a thing, but what do the magical children do? If like their entire bathroom culture is I'm
assuming if you're in the Muggle world still, you just go in an outhouse like you normally did, and your parents would just magically
clear the outhouse. Yeah. No need for a septic tank.
Nonsense.
Oh,
easier time.
I saw that and I was just like,
I
didn't need this bit of trivia though.
No,
like it's just
and, like the thing is, a lot of people get on J.K. Rowling for like unnecessary, what they deem as unnecessary pieces of like the Hogwarts or like the Harry Potter universe. I think it's cool. I think like lore is cool. I'm kind of a lore nerd. I know you are too.
Yeah.
So like all this stuff's cool, and I'm totally in on her creating all kinds of weird and different stuff. This one, I'm not sure. If
that was my thought too. I'm like, I'm totally fine with J.K. Rowling like explaining her thought process or being like, oh no, this or that about the universe, much as I know there's a lot of people who are upset about it. This was the first time I was like, okay, maybe someone needs to put a filter on. Because I didn't think I would ever have to have a conversation or a thought about proper bathroom usage in Hogwarts.
Right.
No, like totally, it just was totally like something I would have been totally happy never discussing. But here we are.
Totally. So, no, totally right. Right on.
Anything else you want to talk about before we go in? Any other bathroom news? No?
No. I'm trying to potty train my daughter. That's about it.
That's about it.
That's a fun thing.
I guess this was kind of relevant to your life.
A little bit. Just a smidge.
Maybe
it would make my life a lot easier if I could just make it go
just
away.
Magic it away. Yeah. All right. So I guess let's jump into tech stuff.
Yeah. What do you got?
All right. So CES was this past week. I don't know. Were you following anything?
A little bit.
A little bit. Again, I feel like I've been this way for a while where, remember when Macworld was a thing?
Yeah.
Where Apple would have its own conference at like either a similar time or used close to it.
Yeah.
And especially close to the iPhone, it was like no one cared about CES. Everyone was more like, what's Apple going to announce?
Right.
So I just don't pay attention to CES anymore.
CES has some weird and cool stuff.
Yeah, it has some weird and cool stuff, but there were a couple things that caught my eye that I did want to bring up. Did you see the TV that LG showed off?
Was it the roll-up one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
your house can be an evil layer.
Yeah. So if you haven't followed anything at all in terms of CES news, basically LG created a rolling TV. So basically you would have like a base.
Think of like a projector.
And like, yeah, a projector screen would like come up out from the bottom. So anytime you were like not going to watch the TV, you could just hide the screen. And everyone was like, holy crap, because one of the things that you sometimes hear is how people don't like how television has become the fixture in the living room.
Right.
So like Samsung now lets you display artwork when it's not in use.
Right.
Or like Apple has like their backgrounds on the Apple TV. And everyone was like, this is the future. We can have like a TV that kind of just folds up and just goes away.
Right. I mean, so let me clarify too. It's not a projector screen. It is like a projector screen where it folds up out of the
it's
base.
The actual TV screen itself that's folding.
But it's not a projector. It is a LCD, and I think it's an LCD screen.
It's either LCD or OLED, but
it's not a projector screen. So don't think like when we say projector screen, we're using it as the form factor, not the actual technology within the TV. So it is a high quality screen that you're looking at.
I think when I saw it, like The Verge was saying, if they put it on the market, it was gonna be like $20,000.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But so I'm of the sort of group that I don't like the folding motion. I don't know if I would use that, and like plus it just becomes an empty space then.
Right. Anyway. So are you going to put like artwork behind where the TV is supposed to be, or are you going to just have like an empty wall?
Because you can't put anything on top of it, right? So because it would have to fold up, right?
Yeah.
So you'd still have this big empty space. I'm actually a fan of the glass panel that has the kind of the screen built in,
right? Yeah.
That you can look through when it's off. I actually really like that. I think that's really classy.
I can see that being a bigger thing than this one feels kind of almost like a little too niche to ever be mainstream.
Again, it's like an evil layer thing. It's like this would be really cool.
You know, it's gonna make an appearance in like the next Bond movie.
Yeah, it's like when you have like you're like, I want a security system, and you're like, what are you gonna get? Laser grid. What? They have those now. You can get a laser grid in your house.
Okay. Like, so basically I can go in to break into that person's house, do like the Hollywood spray of dust, and then immediately see it. Okay.
Yeah. That's a thing now.
So basically 90s movie spy thriller ways of getting around home security will become relevant.
Yeah. Ejector seats next.
Okay.
I just kind of want to see like Logan's face pasted on Catherine Zeta-Jones' body. Logan Zeta-Jones, he sneaks through lasers.
That would be one weird looking face on that body. Just a thumbnail?
No, you need the pic. He needs the pic. No, he needs the picture of him when he had the long hair and the longer beard.
And the longer beard.
Loved it. Like the Fabio picture he had from a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, gotta love the Fabio picture.
I love that picture. That's my favorite picture of Logan.
But speaking of folding and rolling, apparently, like this third-party company that no one's ever heard of actually has put out the first foldable phone.
Yeah,
showed that off
one.
at CES, and then Wall Street Journal broke that Samsung is expected to announce their first foldable Galaxy class phone.
Yeah, I think Huawei as well is
February.
going to do one too.
But yeah, you said you don't like the whole folding thing. Go into detail, because I'm actually sitting there going, the more I think of it, the more I'm like, how would I use that? I can't really see myself using it.
The only reason I would like the foldable design for a phone is like the same reason why I like the DS in terms of a portable gaming device, because of like the clamshell nature of it protects the screen and I don't have to worry about scratching or like damage. Yeah. So I can throw it. I can be more aggressive of like throwing it in my pocket, throwing it in a backpack, throwing whatever. Like I don't have to worry about it, right? Like my phone right now, I keep it in my right pocket with nothing else.
Yeah, I'm the same with my phone. Right pocket, or in this case right here, nothing else, because otherwise, like if it gets with my keys, I know that's gonna be the moment I scratch it.
Right, or like even my wallet or my AirPods or like whatever else I have in my pocket needs to go in the left side because nothing can go in the right side of the phone, right? Like this is a concern. But if there was a clamshell design with a foldable screen, I no longer have to worry about that problem. The thing is that I don't quite know how that would function in terms of like, would you have a crease in your screen over time?
Because when
how would I use it one-handed? Would I have to flip it open like a flip phone and then it would lock into place?
Because
then how would I close it one-handed? Like these are all.
When I was reading the Verge article, they basically described it to where first off, the key problem actually wouldn't go away from the way they made it sound, where like the screen is on the outside of the clamshell rather than the inside.
Yeah, to see that, I don't like that at all.
Then they're like, and then you have like two Android phone interfaces on either side. But I think it's still like one phone. You can just use whatever side. But it's still just like, that doesn't solve the screen problem.
And what is the purpose?
Yeah, and then can we sit there and hold it between us and have like two phone calls going? Like, how? Like,
that would be a weird way of call sharing.
I know, but it's like UI wise and like usability wise, I'm just not sure.
I think it's cool tech. I don't think it's necessary tech.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. Is I'm like, it's cool, but until I see a use case where it makes sense, it might never leave cool factor and go into usability or main consumer use.
Right.
Because it's like the flat pane of glass design that we have now works.
Yeah. I mean, we thought that about like BlackBerry. Like we were like, BlackBerry works. BlackBerry's good. And then like iPhone came out and you're like, oh, dang.
And remember everyone was like, oh, you need the keyboard, but it's like, no, you just need the software keyboard. And I think Verge's take on it too was even like, it kind of sucks. And I think that's just where that tech is going to sit. Is it's going to be cool, but unless it's somehow going to make it a more resilient screen, that tech might get in. Is if it's like, oh, it's less prone to like scratches or breaking, then the tech is going to be used just on your regular old phone. Yeah, it won't fold, but you're like, you can now put your keys in the same pocket.
Yeah. Like that's all I want.
The pocket space will be less of a concern.
Right. And like I took a big risk with my iPhone 10. I didn't put a screen protector on it.
Yeah, I haven't actually, on a side note, I haven't used screen protector since my 4.
Yeah. I've taken a stand against screen protectors.
Well, I even don't have a case on my phone. Admittedly, I'm still rocking the SE, and the thing is basically the Nokia brick.
This still doesn't, like, you haven't had a lot of wear and tear on this.
And the crazy thing is I drop it all the time.
I know, you're a clumsy human being.
Yeah.
But, like, this isn't actually bad at all.
So
like, there's a couple things here and there, but,
like, going right into, like, just phones in general, I think more than anything, it's less, like, cool features and more make what it's iteration, right? It's iteration, less new features, which actually kind of leads into the whole Apple and Samsung and LG debacle in terms of their quarter profits for last year, which, if you haven't heard, basically every cell phone manufacturer has announced that they are going to miss their projections for the end of year 2018. And it's one of those things where everyone freaked out because there's always been this Apple is doomed mantra in tech press, and then everyone's like, see, we were right, and then it was like Samsung broke and then LG broke, and it's like, no, this is an industry-wide thing. A lot of people have said, oh, it's because of just trade with China not being as strong as it's been, especially with just how relationships are working now.
Sure.
But
I think it's saturation of the market.
I think it's saturation of the market. Wall Street Journal, I think it was Wall Street Journal, it was Wired. Sorry. Wired had an interesting piece where they were talking about what they said as the silver lining of all this bad news about the quarter. And they said this is good for consumers because, A, it means that you don't feel like you need to upgrade as often to get a new phone, which means you're saving money in that regard.
Right.
And B, for Apple specifically, they said that locks in your customers in longer term. They're going to be more invested in your ecosystem, so this might be a good thing overall. But yeah, I think to your point, we're seeing just the iteration aspect of phones. It's no longer the new big thing on the phone, because the next big thing, like the rumor is, Apple's going to add a third camera to the phone, and that's kind of...
I mean, so like as a tech person, as someone that uses their phone for content or, you know, for a job, I'm super happy about the third camera. How many people does it actually affect, right?
Not that many, I think.
And the thing is,
well, I mean, they look at the 10R, it only has the one camera, and the average person just hasn't been impacted at all. Adding a third camera, it's...
Because the thing is, like, you're not going to notice, like, the third camera, the savability, all the stuff is going to help you with. People like you and I and James are going to notice. The average person isn't.
Yeah.
And, like, they really don't care. Like, hey, the picture of my soup looks great today.
Yeah, they're going to just notice how the pictures all look better, but they're not necessarily going to care about... It almost feels like we're running into the megapixel problem, where everyone was more concerned about the amount of megapixels rather than the quality of the camera. And just adding another camera in, like, they're going to have to, like, take something else out of the phone or something.
Or work some Apple magic.
But,
like, so the thing that I kind of equate this to, and the thing I want to see from it, I think we'll move into sort of where graphics cards are in the and where they have been sort of in period of time in the last like decade, where it's innovation, and they push it to like where it can't get any better in its current state. And then it'll sit for a while, and then all of a sudden, big boom, something happens where it's like, oh, we can now do this, like smaller microchips or whatever it is, and then boom, now all these new cards come out, right?
Yeah,
and then innovation, and then it stops.
Because I would argue that the biggest innovation we've been seeing in phones is just the amount of processing power they can handle now, and the average person isn't going to notice and not be like...
But that A7 chip is incredible.
Well, yeah,
oh my God.
Yeah, like all the chips Apple's been making have been amazing, but tell that to someone who isn't necessarily in tune with that aspect of technology. Oh, hey, you should get this new phone because the processor is amazing. No one's going to care, especially when their phone that they still have works just fine. And even with like the latest update with iOS 12 with Apple, their older phones started working better because Apple worked a lot on the foundations of the device.
Right.
So I think when everyone freaked out over, oh my God, Apple is missing their projected earnings, I think this has kind of been inevitable. We would inevitably hit a point where the market was going to again become kind of saturated, and you wouldn't be able to put out a new device and everyone would jump and upgrade. People are now going to upgrade on a slower schedule, which means that we aren't going to see these explosive quarters anymore, but everyone who's doomsaying the economy or
it wasn't sustainable. You're basically trying to ride the wave as much as possible.
And the only way they could ride that wave anymore is because the North American market, especially in the United States, has been saturated and been fine for a while. All the growth that they've been seeing has been international. So if there's any issues going on internationally, like with trade right now, it's going to impact the bottom line.
Sure.
So a lot of all the people wanting to write the hot take about Apple was doomed was concentrating on the wrong thing, which is it's A, this was inevitable, and B, it's probably not going to change much at all.
Right.
Other than...
And I think overall it's going to be a good thing. I think the phone market has been such a popular and like high selling thing, like we've been saying, that I think lessening maybe a focus on that and then trying to maybe push your brand or push your company into other innovations in other product lines is going to help a ton in the long. Like, I'm excited for that, right?
Yeah, well,
like I'm kind of bored of the phone thing.
Yeah, I need to upgrade my phone more because I need to upgrade my phone rather than I want the new hotness.
Right.
But
like if we can get cool, like I would love to get more audio tech from Samsung. Like Samsung used to make really cool audio stuff. And they don't do that anymore because they're focused on their Galaxy phones and like.
Did you also see the bit though that like Apple said that the watch is as profitable as the iPod was? Remember when the iPod was the biggest thing?
Oh,
like that's where I think we're gonna start seeing more things that are innovation. It's gonna not be the phone. It's gonna be peripherals. It's gonna be wearables.
Totally into that.
So.
Like I still have my Series 0 Apple Watch.
Yeah, I'm
wearing it right now.
It,
it's a Series 0. I've had it for almost 7 years now.
Yeah, you got it.
It's
launch.
It's now ancient in terms of tech, and barely runs because I updated the software and I was like, I don't really care. So now it's a notification machine. Rather, it can't run apps very well. But I would love to see some innovation and stuff like that. Like the new Apple Watch is awesome with the fall tech and stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah. So it's just kind of everyone jumped on the headline without thinking the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that was I guess the nice thing about, well, not nice, but the moment the Samsung news broke, it was like everyone who's like Apple was doomed was like, oh wait, we can't run that headline anymore.
Everyone's fallen back.
Yeah,
and I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
I don't see this as negative.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we're going to soon hit the point where instead of seeing an annual release, if we're going to start seeing a release every 2 years, or if they do an annual release, it's not going to be like a new phone body, but they maybe update the processor,
right?
Or just it's going to be even more iterative.
I think with Apple and Samsung, like Samsung's been on the last like 4 Galaxies have looked the same, pretty much. Maybe like button placement here or there. It's a little different. But it's helped usability. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying like it's very minimal changes. Apple, I think, has hit with the iPhone 10 model now that they've moved to like taking away the home button and moving to like bezel-less screens. I think we've hit a point where it's like they have very little places to go.
Yeah, like the only thing they can do now is remove the notch. That's like the only thing they have left.
Remove the notch or like change positioning of the side buttons or add a side button or maybe a rear fingerprint scanner, like stuff like that, right? Is really all you can go from here.
But from like when the way you use the camera and you hold the camera, it's going to be indistinguishable.
Yeah.
Until they remove the notch and then...
Right.
Then it will be like a flat piece of glass from now till the end of time.
Right.
Anything else tech-wise you feel like we should cover?
No, but go if you're interested in tech, go look at just like CES articles and just kind of click around. You see some weird stuff.
There was some crazy stuff.
And like stuff that's not great. Like someone made a $80 portable NES that uses the cartridge. And so but it's $80 and it uses the cartridge, which sounds awesome, but it's a screen that is this small, and the device is like gigantic. Like it's like you're holding an NES in your hands and you stuff the cartridge in the top. It's not great.
CES is,
but it looks cool. I'm down with it. I wouldn't use it ever.
Yeah, CES is a mix of tech that is either too expensive unless you have like Bezos level of money, or you're a supervillain and you're just going to steal it.
Right.
Tech that's either never going to be sold, too expensive, or just crazy. And there's some brilliant stuff out there that it's going to it's like the foldable phone.
Right.
It's probably never going to get major market penetration, but the tech within it is going to influence everything after. So CES is just a good thing to follow.
I was surprised at the lack of VR and AR at CES.
I guess this is good.
We've been on the VR AR, no. AR's been like on the back burner for a long time
unless you're Apple
or Google. Well, Google Glass, I think they stopped, right? I think they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. They're like, this is a dumb idea. This is a bad idea. Personally, I thought that was a cool idea. I was totally into Google Glass. I would have, if they could make Google Glass smaller and fit into my glasses,
Yeah, basically-
I would totally wear those.
Yeah, but I think the fact you wore this big, bulky, like 80s style, like cyborg.
Yeah, you look like a hacker from the 80s.
Yeah, you stood out, and that's what made everyone uncomfortable because it was like, it's already bad enough that you can have your photo taken anywhere, but now it's like, is this person recording me in the conversation? Or...
Right. I mean, so there's that. VR, I think we've been on the precipice of VR for a long time. And like everyone thinks of, when you think of VR, you think of like entertainment and gaming experiences.
Yeah.
I think that there's more, like, there's a lot in there that's not gaming and entertainment related that they could be using it for. And like,
but then
we just haven't figured it out yet.
Then I think it's the company's called Void. They're the ones that I want to go to because they have it in Glendale.
The Star Wars experience?
The Star Wars
Yeah,
experience,
I've heard
where
that's
they've done
amazing.
like VR, but it's actually more like take VR, put it in like an escape room type thing to
Right.
where in the virtual reality, if you're like reaching for a switch, there's an actual switch there.
Yeah.
Just to kind of build up that experience. Like there's so many.
I've heard that's awesome, but stuff that's like, I have a lot of friends that have moved over here from Europe and like they play VR. There's like a VR werewolf or like mafia style game where, you know, you're sitting around in a circle trying to figure out who's who, right? Like, you know, one of those kind of games. Like it's in VR, and like my friends play that game just so they could spend time and hang out with their friends from back home.
Yeah.
And like those kind of experiences where it is more of a communication and device to like connect, I think is special that like we're not really utilizing it for right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
Now, it doesn't help that it's an expensive entry point to get to that stuff.
Yeah, it's like what an entry-level VR set is going to put you back.
Well,
at
I mean,
least,
if you get PSVR, right?
That's even... Isn't that $200?
Yeah, it's $200, and then plus the box is like another... So it'd be like $500, right?
Yeah.
But then if you're talking about like high-end ones, where you're talking about like Oculus or Vive, right? Vive and Oculus, I think Oculus is $700 just for the device, and then Vive is $1,000 just for the device, plus the PC to run it.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, maybe $2,000
for
total.
a limited number of games and a limited number of people you can play with.
Right. So like PSVR is really your entry point of like $700 if you don't have anything, right?
Yeah.
So that's not bad.
No, it's... Yeah, I didn't hit me until you brought it up, but yeah, that there was no AR or VR stuff at CES.
Surprising, because that's been like, everyone's been hype on that for years now, and like everyone's been like, this is the new thing.
I wonder how much as everyone says, oh, this is the new thing. There's a part of me in the back of my head that has always wondered if the barrier is going to be, first off, for VR, it's not just that you have to spend $1,000 on the headset, it's the headset and all the other stuff, to where almost everyone you hear virtual reality, I almost am like, it's not going to take off until you can like matrix it and you can just like jack in.
Well, like I wasn't a big VR person until I started so when I was working at Machinima, we had a Vive in the office, and so I was using that almost daily, and like that was, I love that thing. Like Vive is such a special device, and like I've used PSVR since then and like Oculus since then. Nothing touches Vive, but like they're all great experiences and like really are different from anything I've had in like a gaming sense. And I remember putting my dad in there for the first time, and my dad was like, "Oh yeah, this is like," because my dad's very skeptical too, and he was like, "Oh, this is a game changer. Like this is a cool thing." I think once people get into it,
once you experience it, you're just like, okay,
you're like, oh, okay, now I get it, right? But again, it's just how many people have that chance to do that, right?
Yeah, no, it's one of the things I've been wanting, and I always feel like I think someone tried to kickstart something like this. I want like AR Dungeons and Dragons. Like I want to be able to like set up like a play mat and all that, and just be able to move my miniature around, but have like a living world on the table through my phone. That's my dream that I'll never be able to make, and I want someone to make for me. But
I just want to be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh with my dual disc. Okay,
I'm sure that's gonna happen. At some point, it's gonna be like Pokemon.
Well, they had a. I mean, Pokemon Go is Pokemon VR, AR.
Yeah,
but they had, I think, a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament in Hong Kong. I'm gonna say Hong Kong. I might be mistaken. They did a thing where you're playing Yu-Gi-Oh, and they had for the stream, they had the monsters come up through the cards, which is great. It's really cool. But I want that to happen in real time. With I wear a dual disc and it shoots out holograms off of my thing. I want it. Want it real bad.
Anything else?
No, moving on. Continue. We've beaten this topic to death. Right. I'm like now fantasizing about things I shouldn't be fantasizing about. Continue.
Yeah. James is checking something out. I'm not worried. We're all good? All right, then, James, let's move on to movies.
There's drag racing going on outside.
Yeah. Maybe we should just go, end this and go see
Fast and Furious.
Is
that a movie topic?
It's not a movie topic. I know there was some press images that came out.
There's Shaw and Hobbs coming out. Have you heard the full title of that, by the way?
No.
It's Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw.
That's almost bad as Lee Daniels, the butler. By the way, I worked for the producer on that, so I feel like I can.
As much as I love the movie, it's as bad as it's Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Okay?
Yeah, it's like.
But seriously, the full title of that film is Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw.
They should have done Hobbs and Shaw, a Fast and Furious story. Like they should have just ripped off Lucasfilm on that one.
I'm into it.
But I do have some topics lined up, but I know you want to talk about Spider-Man.
Yeah. So I went in with high expectations. So full disclosure, I knew about this movie probably before anyone else did. So when we were at ArcLight, I did one of the we used to do screenings all the time for companies that are like company screenings, right? So we did one for Sony where they were testing trailers out in front of like, I don't know if it was stockholders or shareholders or whatever. They're doing something where it's like, here are movies that no one knows about that are like.
So it was a trade event or a company
trade event or a company event, whatever. And so I got to watch all those trailers, and in that trailer was the first trailer, like 10-second teaser, I guess you could even call it a trailer, for this film.
I remember you telling me about it and just being like, it's 10 seconds long and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I've been like really high on this film since then, and really excited to see where it's going. And I love all the people involved. They have one of the best voice casts I've ever seen in an animated film. Like, it's great. So I went in with high expectations. I saw some of the previews before, and everyone's like hyping it up. And so, full spoilers for anyone that hasn't seen the movie. When it starts with the Comic Code Authority logo, I was like, I'm in.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm 100% in, right? And then it does the introduction of Peter Parker, which is Chris Pine, by the way.
Yeah.
So they do the full thing of like, he has a TV show. They use the old 60s Spider-Man theme song. They do the popsicle that everyone's eaten at least one of in their entire lives, right? Like all the stuff. And I was like, I'm totally in. And then they get to Miles, and then they have him sing Sunflower, which is like a Post Malone Swally song. And I love that song. Like, I think that song like speaks to me. And like, I didn't know that they were using that song for this movie.
Oh, so you were just
so I was just like, wait, hold on, this movie's hitting all my buttons. And so like from there, I was just like in. It's one of the few movies where
they made it for you.
Well, like, no, well, yes, but like, it's one of the few movies where like I always love to discuss things like in the middle of the movie, or like I think when we were, I think when we saw Force Awakens, I like leaned over you and I was like, they're gonna run in and it's me, the Millennium Falcon. Like, I'm like, you know what I mean? And then like, and they did it.
It wasn't me, because I remember there was like 10 people in our group for Force Awakens, and I think you and I were like on opposite ends. Oh
yeah, okay. So no, it was Jenny. So I was like, I like to lean over and be like, I think this is gonna happen. And then when I call it, I can be like, I called it, right? Like you gotta shoot your shot, right? You gotta.
Yeah.
So like, I'm a big fan of doing that, right? And like this movie, I totally was just like in. I was like, I don't care. And like the thing is funny is like I have all the Spider-Verse comics. I've read through Ultimate Spider-Man. I've read through Spider-Gwen. I've read through all this stuff. I know all these characters very well, so I kind of know the story and like where they're going. But like there's surprises in there. There's things that I didn't expect. There's a lot of stuff where like, even though I knew some of what was coming and I knew the characters, like it still was intriguing, and like it kept my interest the entire time. Flat out, this movie's special. Like, I don't even know where to start.
I walked out of the movie and was just like, this was... Like, I was expecting it to be good because I thought it looked good. I liked, like, the animation style and all that.
Right.
And I walked out and I'm like, this was way better than I thought it was ever going to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
that's kind of the point I wanted to get across of, like, I had high expectations walking in, and it, like, blew past all of my expectations.
Yeah, and then, like, it walked away with, like, the Golden Globe, and I'm like, yeah.
And the thing is, it's crazy. It's out in a year that Incredibles 2 came out, and Wreck-It Ralph came out.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't care about any of those movies anymore. Like,
yeah,
I love them, but, like, it's not this one.
Yeah, no, Spider-Man was special. And it's, like, everything from beginning to end just was pitch perfect.
Yeah, like, they hit on every joke. There was no, like, you know, you walk out of a movie and you go, I feel like I could cut out, like, 30 minutes of that.
Yeah.
Right? There was nothing I could cut out. Every line hit probably the way they intended it to hit. Like, oh my God. Like, dude, the three parts that get to me every time, it's when Miles is running out with the monitor and he goes, good news, we don't need this, and he throws the monitor off, right? Like, stuff like that, right? Like, that's a little joke that hit me real hard. The
Doc Ock reveal.
The Doc Ock reveal is great.
Yeah.
Like, that whole sequence is great, but, like, the part where they're doing the eulogy, it's a real touching scene of Mary Jane giving the big speech of, like, anyone can be a hero, blah, blah, blah. And then Miles goes, he's counting on me. And the guy leans over and just, like, completely takes the air out of the room and goes, I don't think he means you, literally.
But it was like, no, it is you, literally.
It's so great. And then the third part was anything that Nicolas Cage did. Anything Nicolas Cage, like, the Rubik's Cube stuff was great.
Or he just was like, I don't get this.
I don't get this. I'm taking this cube with me. I don't get it, but I will. And stuff like that, right? Or there's a throwaway line he has that I say it now all the time to Jenny, and, like, she doesn't. So Jenny hasn't seen the movie yet, so we're probably gonna go again on Tuesday, and I'm gonna take her to see it. So I'm curious to see from, like, because she's an artist and she's I made her read the Spider-Man comics because I thought she would love them, and she did. But she's not, like, a superhero or comic book fan or Spider-Man fan, but she enjoys the stories that have had her read. And she's an artist, so I'm curious to see how she reacts to the film. I know she'll love it. I'm curious to see if her reaction is as strong as is to me and my dad, who's, like, a lifelong Spider-Man fan, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm curious to see if she has the same connection to it. But, like, dude, I've been saying it to Jenny, it's the moment where the Sinister Six come to Aunt May's house and they have the big brawl, and Aunt May said something like, can you guys take it outside? And Spider-Man Noir from the background, it's not even, like, focused on, it's just in the background says, in the old 30s voice goes, like, we don't pick the ballroom, we just dance. You know, like,
that's right. No, I loved because it's Lily Tomlin as Aunt May, and it just was like so not what you would expect for Aunt May, because we always, like, have this idea of Aunt May being, like, the loving, caring, frail old woman.
Yeah.
And nope, she's just, like, not having any of the shenanigans. Yeah. She basically is, like, the Alfred to
it's awesome.
She's like Peter Parker's Alfred, and it's just like, I loved that. I loved that they took Aunt May and just were like, nope, she's kind of a badass.
Right. The crazy part is, like, I started reading a ton about this movie after I saw it, and, like, did you hear the rumor that, or not the rumor, but kind of, like, the confirmed thing that Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland were all in talks to, like, be part of this movie?
Really?
Yeah, so, like, they were gonna do different, like, movie versions of them too.
I was half wondering if they weren't gonna try to, at some point in, like, a sequel, do a combination of live action with animation.
I would love that.
Which would be, because first off, like, this a lot of the Spider-Man stuff in MCU is all CGI.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be too hard to put in MCU Spider-Man.
No, absolutely
and
not.
Do it. Marvel, do it.
I mean, dude, I would have loved, like, and I kind of agreed. I think they decided not to put them in there because it would have taken away from too much.
I think it would have taken away from this story, but I could see, like, them doing it in the future.
Like, dude, I would love to see Holland and Maguire and Garfield. It's just, like, together in a movie, because, like, the first
just have Tobey Maguire go, oh, you did the dance too?
Yeah. So, like, the funny thing is, like, the Spider-Man that they bring up, the first Spider-Man you see, so the Chris Pine Spider-Man, is like an amalgamation of all of the
like basically everything
right?
they showed was like the Raimi trilogy.
Right, but like on a twist, right?
Yeah.
So like he's dancing in the red suit instead of the black one, right? When they're in the coffee shop and the car comes flying in, he doesn't grab Mary Jane and like dive forward. He just punches the car.
Yeah.
Right. The upside down kiss thing. Mary Jane's
one upside down.
Right?
Yeah.
Like,
it's
stuff like that. Like it's all
they played on it, but it was all in reference to it.
Yeah, it's all the reference to the Raimi trilogy, which is great. I loved it.
Yeah, but no, like that movie was just fantastic.
Yeah, incredible. I was blown away by how much I loved that movie. Did you know they animated it on 1s and 2s too?
Really?
Yeah. So like, there's a GIF of it on Twitter where they slow it down. You can see it. But in the scene where they're running out of the facility with the computer, and Miles throws the bagel, right? So in that scene when they're running, Miles is animated on frames 1, 3, 5, 7. So he moves 1, 3, 5, 7, and then Peter animates and moves on 2, 4, 6, 8.
Really?
Yeah. So that's why it looks herky jerky, and it gives you.
Well,
like
it's a nice little. It's a nice effect.
Yeah, it gives you like the comic booky
Yeah.
kind of like stop motion looking kind of effect. It looks awesome, but like yeah, that's how they achieved it. Was like it's on 1s and 2s.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, guess let's move on from Spider-Man into other things.
Sure. What do you got?
All right. So, it broke from an interview with Kevin Feige that they are saying that Endgame trailers will only feature they're not saying it's a hard first 20 minutes, but they're going to mainly have it be all content from the first 20 minutes. Which is, I would have thought the same thing too. I think Feige is the kind of producer who's kind of aware of that's how, like, the fan base wants to be able to go into the movie and not feel like these big moments have been spoiled by the trailer.
Right.
So
you can't stop Sam Jackson though. You heard about that, right?
No. What did he do?
Oh, he was doing an interview and he like spoiled some stuff.
Of course. I mean, you're just going to put him and Mark Ruffalo on a stage together, and you'll probably get the entire movie.
Well, like everyone knows about the rumors with Endgame, right? You know the rumors with the time travel stuff, right?
Yes.
Like everyone's aware of that. So someone, I forget who did the interview. You can look it up. They were asking Samuel Jackson about like, hey, what's it like being Captain Marvel? Like, what is Captain Marvel like as a character? Like, blah blah blah. And he goes into the big thing of like how powerful she is, like all the stuff we know, right? And then it sort of goes into like, well, remember she's one of the few characters in the MCU that can time travel and blah blah blah, and just kind of throws it in there, right?
Oh shit!
And like everyone's like, oh,
this changes things.
Yeah, and so like confirms. But like he like just kind of threw it in there, right? And like, oh, okay. I don't know if you should have did that.
I did not know that bit, but that totally takes things into account. That I mean, everyone's theory was some form of time travel.
Yeah, and like I would have expected it. Like everyone expected it to be Hank Pym and like the Pym particle tech.
Yeah,
going into like whatever
all we know is somehow Ant-Man figured out how to get out of the quantum space. But
so like I don't know, but like that knowing that Captain Marvel can time travel makes it a lot easier to like figure out, right?
We're gonna have some time travel going on, but I do like the fact that that Feige's like, no, we're not gonna spoil anything, and I wish more marketing departments would function with that in mind. I get how in some cases,
I think I told you what I wanted. I wanted them to not do anything with Endgame. Of just like, here's a poster, here's a teaser of what the logo looks like. That's all we're giving you for like 8 months.
Endgame could get away with that.
Yeah.
I think even episode 9 could get away with that. But they're not going to do it because they want it on everyone's mind.
Oh, yeah. They're not going to. But could you imagine the frenzy that people would go into of like, oh my God, what is this movie?
Well, the other thing, because the thing too is the moment that trailer hits, people like you and me are going to watch it multiple times.
Figure it out.
Like I think I've even done this with some Star Wars trailers. I'll go like frame by frame, try to like see if I can't glean anything about it. And just, I like the idea that if all I get is from like the very, very beginning of the film, that means I can go into the film and not feel like it's been taken away.
I feel like Infinity War did that really well too. Like, I think even though they showed a lot, I didn't feel like it hindered my experience at all.
Yeah, because it's something
Less
I
Jedi
find
too.
interesting is if you go back and watch old movie trailers about how much they give away, even compared to trailers today.
Yeah.
And the theory I've heard and I agree with is back when those trailers were being made in like the 70s and 80s, because those are the main ones I watch, like the old Star Wars trailers.
Yeah.
No one was going to be able to like download it and go frame by frame.
Dude, so
you would have to like go to the theater to watch that trailer, and you would forget so much because you couldn't just sit there and like surround yourself with that one piece of media for so long.
The one that I made fun of recently, I might be getting this wrong. Someone has to correct me. When I went to go see Spider-Man, there was a movie trailer for, I think it's called A Dog's Way Home.
Oh, you see the entire movie in the trailer.
Yeah. Like, dude, okay, the dog gets back home at the end of the trailer.
Yeah, we see it in the trailer.
We see it in the
sees
trailer.
The dog. And I'm like, well, this movie's over. But the thing that I felt crazy is in the theater, people are like, oh, that looks good. Let's go see that one. I'm like, you've already seen it.
Yeah. I already know what that movie's about.
We've seen the entire movie. It befriends a cougar, and that's it.
Fights a wolf.
Fights a wolf. It's over. We've seen the entire movie in the trailer. See, that's why I'm glad that Endgame, they're like, yeah, it's only be like the first 20 or so minutes. It's, I'm
Thanos
not
gets the dog back home.
Yeah. The dog shows up and Thanos is like, Gamora? You're not Gamora.
Totally with it.
But speaking of Avengers, apparently in a last-ditch effort to make the Oscars actually have something going on that's not just...
Yeah, they're going to reunite the Avengers.
They're going to try to reunite the Avengers. It's like, to just touch briefly on the Oscars, this is the only thing I've wanted to talk about was, I don't know if you saw this on Reddit, someone came up with, I think, the best solution to the hosting problem. I think they came up with it too late for them to do it, but I want it to happen next year. The Oscars hosted by the Muppets.
Yes. I saw that.
They basically broke it down, and I was just like, I will watch the Oscars now. Like, because here's the thing, even though I work in the industry, I haven't watched the Oscars in years.
Oh.
I watch like the monologue on YouTube the next day, but once I've done that and I've read all like I can read who won and I've accomplished basically the entire Oscar experience without actually having to watch it, I would watch the Muppets hosting the Oscars.
Oh, yeah.
I would host a viewing party of the Muppets hosting the Oscars because it would be that much, I think, fun.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to spice it up a little.
Yeah, like that would be great because I don't know, they haven't had no host for the Oscars since the 80s, and they said it was because of the opening, and I finally watched the opening from like the 1989 or whatever Oscars. Right. And it starts out and I'm like, oh, this is okay. It's like, it seems like your normal Oscar skit.
Right.
Where it's like Snow White as a character rather than like a host.
Sure.
But as it continues, it like starts to go into, it becomes like this big musical number, but it's like, imagine a high school caliber like show with Oscar production values, and that's basically what it is. And it's like this weird, very slow train wreck of 11 minutes that ends with Rob Lowe and Snow White singing a duet. And it's just like, when I first started watching, I'm like, I don't get why everyone said this killed the hostless Oscars. And by the end, I'm like, oh god, never do this again.
So have you seen the Hollywood Reporter does the roundtables all the time, right?
Yeah.
There's a video with him with Rob Lowe and during a comedian's roundtable where he tells the story about that Oscars.
Okay.
It's hilarious. I recommend you go watch it. I'm gonna butcher the story if I tell it here. It's a fantastic story. It's one of the best stories I've ever heard. Go watch Rob Lowe talk about the 1989 Oscars. He talks about Snow White. It was a Disney girl that was from Disneyland, so they practiced the whole routine, whatever, they were doing fine. But now when they did this show, instead of having the place cards where it said like Tom Hanks, whatever, all these big celebrities, now all the big celebrities are actually in the seat, so she freaks out and goes up an extra octave, and that's why the song was so bad. Stuff like that, right? Like he tells this whole story of like how this happened.
Yeah, no, it was one of those
how he almost killed, how he thinks he killed Lucia Ball.
Oh god. No, it's
great.
One of those scenes where like watching it, it was like, again, it starts fine and then it just keeps. It just goes, and you're like, oh God, please let it stop. But enough Oscars. We'll have to talk about those later. Another bits of news, there was an interview with Bob Iger at Barron's where he went in depth about the Disney Plus streaming service.
Sure.
And one of the bits that came out there is Disney isn't going to stop making films that have an under $100 million budget. Anything that has over $100 million, they're going to do a theatrical release, but it sounds like some of their smaller things, like, because they've had this regular, it seems like once every couple of years, they do like the sports movie, where it costs like $30 million to make and then no one goes to see it. Apparently stuff like that, they're going to continue to make, but it's going to be exclusive for the streaming service.
Okay, I'm into that. I mean, the thing that's interesting is the $100 million kind of like, this is like the cutoff, because like a movie like Spider-Man had a $90 million production budget.
Yeah.
So like that belongs on a bigger screen, right? But like, you know, if that was a Disney movie, it would be put on their streaming service.
Yeah, apparently, because I think one of the things in their lineup is like the live action Lady and the Tramp is going straight to the streaming service rather than going into a theatrical release. I wonder if that's because as much as they've had some really strong performances like Maleficent, Cinderella, I think even Beauty and the Beast
did really well.
They've also had a lot of ones not do great, but okay. Like Christopher Robin did okay. I think Pete's Dragon did okay, but they never.
But like,
I wonder if they were approaching like the break-even level to where like Disney still wants to make them, but doesn't really feel like it's worth the effort or the cost of doing a big theatrical.
All their live-action remakes have done really, really well. Like, I think Dumbo's going to do a lot better than people expect. I think Mulan's going to do better than people expect. I think The Lion King's going to be great. Like,
yeah. I think the problem is, to get into just more box office business aspect of it, I don't think the problem was with the films that have underperformed. I think Disney overplayed their hand. I think they found a good formula. They're like, oh, let's take this formula and apply it to everything. And they didn't think that part of the formula that worked was they released the first ones that did really well. They released it in March, which March is starting to become a bigger month, but there's not a major amount of competition. Whereas Christopher Robin coming out in August is like the end of the summer, so like the big tentpoles have already kind of played out, but it's still the summer. Everyone's still going to be putting out stuff. I think Disney just needed to slow down their production cycle, keep all that stuff in March, and they should have had Mary Poppins in March and Solo in December. I think that would have solved a lot of the problems that they've had with these not necessarily underperforming films in some cases, even though Solo definitely underperformed, but instead of being decent performance, I think they would have all seen a stronger performance. But I think it's a good thing that they're saying, there's going to be this space for under $100 million movies, because I think that's a legitimate concern, that if Disney is going to have this streaming channel, are they going to stop making these medium budget films? Because that's been dying in the industry. You have like
it's all
either low budget or tentpoles over 100 million. And with streaming, I think we're starting to see that medium budget films can kind of exist. They're just not going to necessarily they're going to either go the Netflix route where it's going to be a super limited release to theaters, or it's going to just be straight video on demand. So I think that's...
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
I think it's a good spot.
Again, my thing is, I would be more comfortable if they took it case by case rather than having a hard cutoff of... I
don't think it's going to be a hard cutoff, but that's basically what Iger said is that's going to be a home for stuff like that.
So, like, again, I'm hoping that they do take it case by case, because, like, again, like a movie like Spider-Man, Disney is capable of something like that at a lower budget. And so I'd be concerned that like a movie like that doesn't get the theatrical release that it deserves and like the time that it deserves to breathe. Yeah. And it's just stuck on a streaming service that...
But I wonder how much of that is... Concern is, if you look at how Netflix puts out content, they have so much content that comes out all the time, and you never...
Stuff gets lost.
It gets lost.
Like, that's my concern. There's some great stuff on Netflix that gets lost.
Because I don't think Netflix ever markets it correctly. I think it's like, this thing's out, and we're like, wait, that was a thing? I didn't even know it was a thing at all.
Right.
And so you first hear about the thing...
Well, because I think Netflix runs into the problem of, like, thinking that something they're doing is bigger than it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like, where I always joke about if Valve just put out Half-Life 3 on the internet, right? Just shadow dropped it, like, here you go!
Oh, the internet would break.
Right. So, like, but I feel like Netflix treats every one of their releases like it's Half-Life 3.
Yeah.
And, like, they just expect people to jump on it, and it's like, No.
Because the amount of times I found stuff and I'm like, why didn't I know about Netflix made it? And then I discovered Netflix made it like 2 years prior.
Ago, right.
And it's just like, it happens too often that it just means that I sit there and I'm like, do I really want to go? Because at that point it's like 3 seasons in and I'm just like,
that's a lot of time.
It's a lot of time. It just like, it kind of kills the
totally
drive for it. But hopefully Disney's more the HBO strategy where it's less content, higher quality compared to the Netflix strategy that exists right now, which is too much content. Quality is kind of hit and miss.
Right.
It can either really hit or it can really miss. But
we'll see.
We'll see. And I mean, let's keep going. Let's just say we're in television now. James, let's switch over. James? Yeah. Did we switch? Oh, sorry.
Dude, James is a beast.
He's a beast. But the thing is, he actually figured out stuff in OBS that I wasn't even aware of. So we're now, instead of having to do like 3 mouse clicks, he only has to do 1. So he ninja'd that to where I wasn't sure if he had done it or if he was just like zoned out because he doesn't care about what we're talking about.
No, James.
Content that you came for, talking about how we make the stream.
It's important. It's important to know. If you want to do this and take over, he
ninja'd that to where I had no idea. So anyway, to keep talking about Disney, we have rumors of runtime and episode amount or number of episodes for The Mandalorian.
8, right?
8 episodes, 45 minutes, and I'm so happy with that.
It's a sweet spot.
It's a sweet spot because I know we've talked about this before. Not on this because, hey, first episode. We both have felt that when you watch the Marvel pieces on Netflix, they're really, really strong. And you get to episode 7 and 8 and you're like, oh my God, this is one of the best scenes I've ever watched. And then it like falls apart completely and just starts to just, it drags. So I think Mandalorian being 8 episodes, I'm so happy with that.
I'm in. And like everything from the set production that I've seen, everything like I've heard coming out of the set, like I'm very excited for this movie.
I mean,
or for this show.
Between this and the Clone Wars coming back, I can't wait until Disney Plus is a thing. Just, I'm hoping that there's some Star Wars goodness like day one. I mean, I'm sure there will be.
I'm very happy.
Another thing, have you watched? This is something that crossed my attention just because this was based on a game I played a lot when I was a kid. Did you see the Carmen Sandiego trailer for Netflix?
Did.
What'd you think?
I need to see more, but like I think it looks cool. I think from the look it looks cool.
It looks cool, but my thing was in all the games and everything, Carmen Sandiego is always the villain. It's always been Carmen Sandiego does this outrageous thing where she steals like the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
And in watching this show, I'm like, is she going to steal the crazy, outrageous stuff? Because like one of the themes in the trailer is she's the thief that steals from other thieves, and I'm like, are we trying to turn her into the hero?
Like the Robin Hood kind of character.
Yeah, the Robin Hood kind of character. Because I still want my Carmen Sandiego to steal, like, Buckingham Palace.
Right.
Like, are we going to get to that? Because apparently Netflix...
I want to see the Venom version of of
like,
Carmen Sandiego.
I still want my Carmen Sandiego to be the Carmen Sandiego I knew as a kid. And I'm wondering if this isn't just going to be an origin story type thing, because apparently Netflix also is doing a live action Carmen Sandiego movie with Gina Rodriguez not only voicing Carmen Sandiego in the cartoon, she's playing Carmen Sandiego in the movie. So are we getting a Carmen Sandiego expanded universe? And are we going to...
I'm totally with that.
I'm totally with
Netflix,
this.
Please, if you're listening, I used to play Carmen Sandiego, but the game that grabbed me in the vein of children's point and click adventure games, bring back Spy Fox.
No, because James and I were talking about this because we found his old copy of Carmen Sandiego, and I still have my old copy somewhere on disc. Oh, I think James is going to grab it. So my thing is, I loved that game. I got to the point.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like so.
Let me see this thing.
Yeah, so this is like the old school late '90s Carmen Sandiego.
This brings back memories, man.
I played that thing to death. I think I was telling James this. I think I got to the point where I could solve the cases in under 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Just because I played it so much.
You know what's going on, right?
I just knew what was going on. But
that happened to me with Spy Fox. So Spy Fox was almost the exact same thing like this, but he's a fox that's a spy. right? And so they released it on iOS maybe like a couple of years ago. So I bought it. And I was like, I'm gonna have so much fun with this, and I beat it in like a half hour. And I was like, oh, no, right. It's like this was a lot harder when I was a kid.
James and I have literally been looking into emulation and all that, so we can play it,
dude.
Because I want to play it again. Like,
you can find this online probably.
I think there's ways to go to because I think it's technically abandonware.
Is it a GOG game?
No, I've looked.
Oh, okay.
But I know people have found ways to make it work because this was Mac OS 9. That's how old this game is.
Coming soon, Quality 3 Carmen Sandiego stream.
I totally am down to do that. As soon as we can figure out how to get the game to run, I'm totally down to do like an after show stream of Carmen Sandiego.
Dude, like, I'm totally in.
Like, it's just... So I'm excited because I've wanted Carmen Sandiego content for a while. It's just like, it's this property that I'm like, it's perfect. It's like, it's 90s nostalgia for my generation. We all grew up, we watched the show, and like, where is it? And we're going to start getting it. So I'm excited there. Yeah, I'm kind of like...
Well, like, the thing is, Netflix is so hit and miss with its adaptations.
Yeah.
Like, dude, Death Note was absolute garbage, but... Series of Unfortunate Events, one of the best things I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, Series of Unfortunate Events season 3 was great. I loved it.
But
totally binge watched that. But yeah, no, it's like the Netflix apprehension and like the choices they're making with Carmen Sandiego. I'm kind of like, I'm not sure I'd go with that, but I'm wondering if it kind of makes sense because, you know, you have strong female character who's like just super smart, super savvy, can just accomplish anything.
Yeah.
That makes sense that you'd want that type of character to be a hero nowadays.
Yeah.
So the thief that steals from thieves might be the new trend, but I still want...
You want the femme fatale.
I want the femme fatale who steals the Eiffel Tower.
All right. Totally in.
And it's...
Note the picture of the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, like it. So hopefully this is just the build up to the theft of the Eiffel Tower or the Louvre, or apparently she's stealing everything in France.
She's playing the long con.
But it's like, who knows? But I'm excited. It's supposed to be, I think, coming out later this month.
Oh.
And again, true to Netflix form, the trailer hit like this week or last week, and it's out this month. So We'll circle back on that in a later episode of Carmen Sandiego. But moving on, speaking of your whole bit about Spider-Man, Sony is exploring branching out of the Spider-Verse and bringing it into television.
Right. Well, I know the sequel got greenlit. I know they're doing a spin-off movie with the Spider-Women. So they're doing Spider-Gwen, Silk, and Spider-Woman. This is a different thing that I'm not sure how I feel about. But it would be interesting because I think Disney still has the rights to Spider-Man TV, right?
Yes, because there's the Ultimate Spider-Man show is Disney.
It's Disney. So I don't know how this works rights-wise. They would obviously need approval from Disney. I don't know if Sony would be the ones producing it.
I wonder though if this is the kind of thing that fell into that if you're going to use Spider-Man in the MCU, we can use Spider-Man. So. Deal. I wonder if that got expanded into television to where both have TV rights.
Right.
But I think Disney and Marvel look at Spider-Man in the sense where as long as Sony likes making the content, we are making all the money. We're making money on merchandise.
Right.
So Disney, there's no downside for Disney letting them do it.
No.
But yeah, it's going to be, it raises a bunch of like questions in terms of like the corporate side of things,
right.
But in terms of the
and then also like
content side of things, I'm interested to see what they have planned.
Also, like, what are they going like? Obviously, the art style is important, and like probably the most important reason of like why this is going to get an audience. But like, what stories do they tell that? Like Ultimate Spider-Man right now, or the show that's running right now, has Miles Morales in it. It has the older Peter Parker. It has Spider-Gwen in it. Like what? Like what are they
going to do different?
Yeah, right. Like they just did the Spider-Verse arc maybe like earlier this year or last year in the new Spider-Man show they're running right now. Like what are they going to do differently for this show that they do it, right? Like that's my concern. Maybe it could follow the movie and like, you know, go through Miles Morales growing up as and learning as a new Spider-Man. But then what do you do for a sequel, right? Like,
yeah,
this just adds questions that I don't
questions
want
also, like, because the art style I have a feeling isn't cheap. So are they going to just switch?
Well,
to
remember,
like
they did the whole movie for $90 million.
Yeah,
and like Incredibles 2 obviously had a longer cycle, but was like $200 million.
Yeah,
and then like I think Wreck-It Ralph had a budget of like 160 million. Like, Spider-Man was made relatively cheap.
So I think the advantage of Sony being the smaller studio,
right?
That they were able to do it on the cheap. And I wonder how much of their choice of the art style, which is, I think, fantastic. I wonder if that helped because it enabled them to do, like you said, they animated on 1s and 2s for the characters. That means instead of having to do a full 24 frames of motion per character, you're only doing 12.
Right.
Which probably, in the grand scheme of things, might make render time faster and also might make it cheaper to animate. I actually don't know that. Don't quote me on that. James is shaking his head no, which means I'm probably wrong, and I'm sure I'm going to get a note from Kelly at some point going, Logan, you're an idiot. But
I don't think that has any much to do with it. But like I think it's more a thing of like they made the movie relatively cheap. I don't know where they cut costs or where they're saving money, but like maybe they could scale the budget down and still retain the same at least art style that you wouldn't notice the difference. Like, you know, scale it down a little bit. Yeah,
I mean it's interesting that Sony. I don't remember where I saw this, but someone basically said it that Spider-Verse shows Sony has finally figured out how to handle Spider-Man outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I don't think that's
you don't think so?
Yet. No, I think this is a very different case. I think like the art style is different. I think like the problems that they had with live action, or you can get away with a lot in animation that you can get away with in live action. So like. Just ask DC, right?
Yeah.
DC understands animation, understands the animated film.
Seriously.
They don't understand live action yet.
Yeah, no, the live action stuff has been more miss than hit. I still need to see Aquaman. But I remember, like, if you look at the pinnacle of superheroes and animation, it's the DC animated universe.
Yeah, but even then, even the newer movies they're putting out, right? Like the new Justice League movies, the Batman movies, like Bad Blood, I think is a fantastic animated Batman film. Go watch that. Like the Killing Joke they did that was animated, like all that stuff is fantastic. But they just can't transfer that over to the live action side.
Yeah.
And obviously they understand that their animated stuff is better and is great, and they just haven't, as a company, been able to do that. Obviously Warner Brothers and like a lot goes into that, but like they have a template that they just haven't been able to put over. So I think for Sony, it's the same thing of you can't think that what works in live action or what works in animation for a movie like this is going to fix all of their live action problems.
Think the live action stuff that might still be a mess, but I think what the argument the person was making, and I again don't remember where I saw this, was by doing something very different than what they had attempted in live action, that this might be the formula they need to follow. Instead of trying to emulate the MCU, they just need to do their own thing with the characters they have. But
I could see that.
We'll see how they handle it.
I didn't enjoy Venom though, so I don't think that that's necessarily the case.
I haven't seen Venom, and I didn't care enough to go see it.
No, don't see Venom. Okay, I don't want to tell you what to do. Go see Venom, make your own decisions,
and then
don't complain to me when it's bad and you come back and you're like, it was terrible.
And the final bit of TV news that we have to go over is, in an interview with Jim Cramer, Tim Cook said that Apple's releasing a new service later this year, and everyone is assuming that we're going to now have another streaming service, this time from Apple. And my take is it might be too little too late. How about you?
Please stop making different streaming services. Please.
Yeah,
I can't handle this much content. And like I love the content, but like no. It's
like it's kind of like it's the CBS all access problem. If you only have one show that people want to watch, I'm going to do the trial, binge it, and then never sub.
Yeah.
And who knows if Apple even has shows that... Because if Apple has shows where it's like, oh, this is like the new HBO, I might think about it. But I'm not holding my breath
No.
It's not like Disney where I know there's going to be enough Star Wars content that I'm subscribing day one.
Right.
This one I'm just like, I've already got Netflix and Hulu and HBO and all that.
Yep.
And soon Disney. Again, I feel like it's too little too late. And then on top of that, I even have Amazon just because of Amazon Prime. It's like, maybe that's how that's going to be Apple's secret, is that they're going to either bundle it and try to make Apple Music that much more of a
Apple
value.
Media, right?
Yeah, trying to make that more of a value, but I don't. If they try to do another service that's like $10, it's like, well, there's two services for $10 that I won't buy.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, shout outs to the HBO like yearly trailer, or like trailer for the year.
That was a nice little trailer, yeah.
Shout outs to that for the shot that we got of Rorschach for the Watchmen series. I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, that one is going to be a fun one. I didn't realize it was coming out later this year. The moment that hit, I was like, oh, that's this year?
And the Rorschach that they showed looks awesome. Totally in.
Yeah, let's see how I'm looking forward to that one. But yeah, I think is there anything else TV-wise you would like discussing?
I'm good.
All right, James, let's move on to games. So I have two bits of news. I know there's one you really want to talk about, so let's talk about the other one. This isn't actual news, but more like an analyst piece, which means this could either be complete hogwash, but I think it's something worth thinking about and discussing. And the analyst has argued that given the success of all these free-to-play games, especially Fortnite, they're arguing that we're soon going to see stuff like Overwatch and Call of Duty go free-to-play.
Yeah, so I've heard this rumor, and I agree with the Overwatch one.
I don't agree with Call of Duty, but yeah, I agree with Overwatch.
I agree with the Overwatch one. That makes no sense. Call of Duty is weird because Blackout's doing really well now. I think in terms of pure gameplay and as a game, Blackout is the best battle royale on the market. Obviously, it's behind a paywall, and
which immediately it's going to limit the audience.
And they don't do as much in terms of what Fortnite and PUBG do in terms of changing up its game and adding new stuff and skins and all kinds of stuff like that. Like, it doesn't do that, but just in terms of pure gameplay and like what it is, I think Blackout's the strongest one of the group. The reason why I don't see this happening is because of the way that Call of Duty is produced on a production cycle. So it goes on that 3-year cycle, right? So it goes Treyarch,
Infinity Ward, and there's I don't remember
Sledgehammer. So once the new game comes out, I think Infinity Ward's next. Once the new Call of Duty comes out, they're not gonna have Blackout. And if they do have Blackout, it's going to be called something else. It's not going to be called like Blackout 2, right?
Yeah.
So now are you just going to have Blackout as a separate mode that's not going to change with the rest of the Call of Duty series? Then you run into a situation of like, does that now just become a completely different version of Call of Duty that doesn't change and evolve with the rest of the games? And like,
so you think if they do it free to play, they might do a standalone that's just
otherwise it doesn't make sense, right? Because otherwise then you have this free to play mode on Black Ops 4 that doesn't live with the rest of Call of Duty, right? Like it doesn't, like Call of Duty, even in its pro scene, like what it does is it just drops whatever the old game is, drops like a sack of bricks, and then the game just moves, right? So like, then the community moves with it, right?
Exactly.
Like now what you're doing if you do it free to play here is that now everyone's just going to play Blackout, and then you fracture your audience.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a weird case. I could see them doing it because of how the free to play market is booming with Fortnite, but I think it'd be an awkward situation.
I think it doesn't work for Call of Duty, but my thing with Overwatch is, first off, Overwatch already has most of that stuff kind of already there with how it functions. It's just that it's behind the paywall of you have to buy it before you get
right. I mean, it's all loot boxes,
stuff.
right?
It's all loot boxes that you can buy the loot boxes. So Overwatch is already kind of pre-built to have that work.
Right.
But I think the real reason why Blizzard would be thinking about it would be less, oh, hey, we can make so much money if it goes free to play. I think it's more Overwatch League. Because I have found that when you watch competitive Overwatch, is so hard to follow unless you play the game that they're already limiting the audience that can watch it, and by making it free to play, they can hopefully expand that audience.
Like I think we've talked about it before.
Yeah,
and I've been calling it for years that Overwatch League will struggle and has struggled, and they're not making any decisions. Personally speaking, I don't think they're making any decisions that lend to the idea that they will right the ship. And remember, I've called this for years, so this isn't anything new.
This is a conversation you and I have had for a while, where it's like, we like some of the things that they're doing in Overwatch League, but we don't think it's...
Go to my Twitter and search terms OWL. You'll see my obsession with owls and like the sounds that they make, but then you'll also see my criticisms of Overwatch League, and I've been very vocal about it over the last couple years.
I think this is, especially once Overwatch League gets closer to starting, I think we should actually have like a full-on discussion on Overwatch League.
I can fully break it down for you. But
because there's so many aspects of it that I think we could go into about why it may or may not work with the things they're doing.
Yeah, and like just speaking as an insider now, a lot of people within the industry, within the esports industry, both people that work in the industry and sponsors around it, aren't very convinced on Overwatch League either. So like it's a very big concern for them. So I think I agree with you that like making it go free to play just gets it back into the cultural zeitgeist. Yeah, and I think like that brings it back in, because I think Fortnite stole a lot of the thunder, right?
Yeah, I think Fortnite stole a lot of thunder for everything. PUBG and Overwatch both got hit by it.
The thing that's crazy, and like I've thought about this a lot, because it started to come up over the last like couple of months, and I actually have trended more and more in agreement to it, is that that Fortnite has become the most important game of this decade. And I think that it's true. I think it's true in a lot of different cases, but I think it's true mainly in the sense of like, and I was trying to, so my cousins, so obviously holidays, right? So I had some cousins in town, and we had a big holiday party. And so I have a couple cousins that have children that are 9 and 7. And so, of course, they don't like shooters, or they want to play Fortnite. All their friends are playing Fortnite. They're worried about them playing shooters, right? Of course, very common parent problem, right? And the thing that I described to them wasn't the idea of Fortnite as a game, right? And it's the idea of like when we were growing up, and like, so the idea that they brought up was like, you know, when I was with, like, all his friends want to do is sit there play Fortnite. And like, when I was growing up, you know, we were going to go outside and like hang out and like go to the mall or do whatever, right? And like, well, my argument and my point of it is like, and I experienced this watching them play Fortnite and like watching kind of kids around their age group play Fortnite, is it's become a way for them to socialize. Yeah. Because like back then, like kids were allowed to go outside and like go off by themselves and like hang out. And
that's less of a thing nowadays.
That's less of a thing now. Like the world is quote unquote a dangerous place now, right? So like parents aren't letting kids outside of the house, and so like they can't drive, they can't go anywhere by themselves. Like getting on Fortnite with your friends is less about playing the game. It's less about winning and like trying to win and like play the game. It's more about like, we're just hanging out and spending time together.
Well, that's how I feel even as an adult when I play computer games with friends. Right. Is a lot of it.
But like we even have the ability to go out to a movie and do whatever, right? Like so. Yeah. But like for them, like this is the outlet that they have, and Fortnite has really become that, and Epic's leaned into that so heavily. Of like, this is just it's not like a lot of the gameplay changes they make aren't gameplay related. They are just like adding things into the game where it's like, hey, come dance at this spot, or like come hang out over here. Like it's more of just an experiential thing rather than it is a competitive thing. And I think it's really cool, and I think it's something that a lot of companies aren't getting when they're making these games of like, let's make it free to play or whatever. Like it doesn't, like I think League of Legends and Dota became that as well, and like CSGO have become that, where it's like, these are places to hang out with your friends. These are social spaces for you to be in.
And I think that's something, it's like I said, as an adult, it's like, for me, if I'm going to play a game as a game, I'm usually going to play a single player game. Yeah. The moment I'm doing a multiplayer game, I don't really want to play unless I'm playing with my friends, because for me, a lot of it is the social aspect. Right. And it's Fortnite can play on my phone. It can not play on this iPad, but it can play on iPads. It can be on your Xbox and even on your PlayStation now on the same account because Sony finally buckled.
And that's the crazy thing too. That's crazy.
It's everywhere.
But the craziest thing, and someone brought it up to me, and I never thought about it this way until they brought it up. Was think of how many games have asked for crossplay, right? Like Rocket League was a big one, where it's like Rocket League wanted crossplay, and Sony was like, no. And all these games, the popular games, like Call of Duty's talked about it, like everyone's talked about it. Microsoft has come out and said yeah, we want to play crossplay. Like everyone's talked about it, and Sony's been like, no, we're not doing crossplay. And then Fortnite made them buckle to their knees.
Yeah, because it was there was finally a game that was more popular than Sony corporate's willpower.
Yeah, dude, think about it. This game that shouldn't have succeeded, this game that had to pivot and that pivoted into this thing accidentally, made one of the most powerful gaming companies in the world buckle to its whim.
Yeah.
Think about that. Think about what other game could do that? It's such an important game. And again, I like Fortnite. Do I think it's the greatest game of our generation? No.
But it's definitely the defining game.
It's a defining game, and it's an important game, not for gameplay. Because I think Blackout is a better mode than Fortnite is, right? Or Fortnite's Battle Royale. I think it's better. I think PUBG in a lot of aspects is better. I think it's probably one of the weaker of the major Battle Royale games. But what it's doing is so important. You can't get away from it. It's everywhere.
Unavoidable. It's big when it gets an SNL sketch.
Yeah.
And everyone understands it.
Dude, Ninja was on Jimmy Fallon. Ninja hosted hosted at New York at Times Square.
Yeah, that's right. He was
Ninja was on the main screen streaming for 8 hours at Times Square on one of the big screens at Times Square was just Ninja's stream.
Yeah, it's
during New Year's Eve.
Fortnite crossed from just being a gaming thing and just became
a cultural thing. And so quickly.
So it's kind of
so much in the way that Minecraft changed the thinking of in the 2000s to now, even now, Minecraft changed the way the next decade thought about games in terms of beta, game in progress, having people play through while you're building your game, things like that. The way that Minecraft, not the gameplay of Minecraft, but the way that Minecraft was run and produced, and the way that it affected the culture and the way that it ran, affected the way we view games from 2009 when it came out to now, right? Fortnite's going to do the same thing from now until
the next thing. Yeah.
Right.
And you know what? I'm all for more social stuff with games because it's honestly half the reason I play anymore is to play with my friends. Right. But let's go on to the big thing, the thing I know you really want to talk about.
What's the big thing?
It was like a flashback from the 2000s instead of the 2010s. Bungie.
Yeah. Super excited.
So, if you don't follow gaming news at all, Bungie is the developer that made the original Halo game with Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo Reach, and Halo ODST. I think that's all they did.
Yeah. Reach was the last one. They split from Microsoft. So Microsoft has now an in-house studio that does all the Halo stuff. Named called 343. So
343. Bungie then started to make the new big game, Destiny, but they did that as a partner with Activision. Right. And the news broke that Bungie is going to now start to self-publish their games. And I think they had to buy themselves out of the contract with Activision.
I don't know if they bought themselves out, but there was a mutual agreement that they will split and part ways with Activision, and that they are, most importantly, retaining the Destiny IP and the branding of Destiny.
So, huge fan of Halo 1 through 3. Sometimes I even still sit down and be like, man, I need to do a replay. I've only got about 20 minutes into Destiny 2, and that's only because...
Did you buy it?
No, it was free
okay.
for that brief period of time last year, so I got it then.
Got it.
So I only have about 20 minutes in. First off, I don't have to be sold on Bungie being awesome and having their own control over stuff.
Right.
To me, I'm like, that's great. Why don't you break it down? Because I know you're bigger on Destiny.
So again, huge Destiny player, huge Destiny fan. A lot of the changes, we have to see what they do, right? So a lot of the changes, or a lot of the criticisms that Activision has been a lot of monetization stuff and a lot of, microtransaction-y kind of stuff. Destiny doesn't have a ton of that, and the stuff that they do have isn't important. So I don't know if that's going to have a huge change. I will say that a lot of the stuff that they push, like expansions or add-ons or things like that, do feel rushed. So when you're on your own time, and you're not answering to a publisher, you don't have to worry about deadlines. And so I could see them taking a lot more time, and a lot of these things coming out could take longer, but be better quality when they do come out.
Yeah, because I've noticed a trend, because I still follow the news, gaming news anyway, even though I don't play Destiny, is it always seems like there's this 2-week period after the expansion comes out where
they fix everything. Yeah. But they come out seemingly right away of like, hey, we know these are problems and we'll fix them. And they fix them and it's all good, right? Like, that's what always happens. And the thing that always happens with Destiny 2 is like, there's always one expansion that sucks, that's terrible, and then like the second expansion that's like fixes everything, that does great, and then the next expansion is shit, and then they fix everything. And like it goes in waves. So again, a lot of those problems don't sound like Activision problems. They sound more like Bungie trying to figure out what this game is and like how it. Because again, like we were saying, games of service. What Fortnite's doing isn't easy. Yeah. Like, being able to put content out that everyone automatically likes or is into right away is hard. So I think Bungie's trying to find their way. And, like, in some ways they have. In some ways they take steps back because they experiment. And, like, I like that they experiment. But it does ruin the game at times. They do really kind of ruin progression and ruin the game. But, I mean, the curious thing here, I think, is less about Bungie and it's more about Activision. And I think the elephant in the room is like, when is Blizzard going to break away?
Do you think that's going to happen? Because didn't Blizzard, like, I thought the merger was...
Well, the merger, that's a little more complicated because, like, Bungie was an acquisition, but Blizzard was more, not 50-50, but was more of a merger. Yeah. The concerning thing that goes against this argument was Mike Morhaime leaving. So Mike Morhaime was one of the founders of Blizzard. He basically is Blizzard. Like, everything that you love about Blizzard and what everyone loves about Blizzard as a classic company in its original sense, and like its company motto and mantra, and like the aura around the company comes from Mike Morhaime as a founder and as a CEO for the past 2 decades, right? So a lot of people within the company said forced out of his CEO position. Okay. In the last year or so. So he stepped down at BlizzCon into an advisory role. And so the new director, I forget his name, but he was the former game director at for WoW. So a lot of monetization, a lot of like, an Activision type of person. And Mike Morhaime has very much been the gameplay and like story and what you love about Blizzard kind of a guy, right? Yeah. So very different styles, very different personalities there. So he steps into an advisory role at BlizzCon. So that's in October. So it just comes out now that I think in a press release, they didn't even make a statement about it. They made a press release and stating a lot of different things. But in the press release, there's a statement in there that Mike Morhaime will be leaving his advisory role in April. And fully leaving the company. So,
which kind of kills any thought of Blizzard splitting from Activision.
Right. So to me, that says a lot that someone like that, whether he was forced or not, is leaving. It says a lot.
Yeah. So, no, it'd be interesting to see how it goes, because I know.
So yeah, I'm excited to get back to the original topic. I'm excited for Destiny to be taking over Bungie full time and like maybe get rid of some of the monetization stuff and like really focus in on what they do best. But at the same time, a lot of their missteps, I don't feel like are Activision missteps.
Be interesting to see how it goes out, because it's. Yeah. Again, I don't have that much time into Destiny. I need to actually dive into it a bit more. But knowing what they did with like Halo in particular, it's like if there's any one studio that I think needed to be its own publisher, and I'm glad it's in the position where it can be, it's Bungie.
Yeah.
So let's see what they do. Anything else you feel like discussing at all?
No, I'm pretty good.
I think that about does it. James, let's roll credits and call it a day. So folks, if you haven't done so already, please like, share, subscribe, and do all the lovely, fun social stuff that we are supposed to tell you. Other than that, see ya in a couple weeks.